Okay, so we are now on training day number 34. We're in the intermediate version of the course, which is getting into surface transitions, distractions, and preparing him for urban work. And he's matured quite nicely from that little baby pup of 9 weeks old to looking like a nice young Mal right now. And his work ethic is really showing it too. Now, one thing I want you to do is a little shorter lead going up to the scent article. And the reason why we want this to happen is that you're starting to get into contaminated area. And if you happen to get on the wrong article or the wrong track, you're going to go off to the races on what you don't want to look for. So let's go maybe 1 meter lead length and make sure you go over the top of the article. Don't let him circle around that area and try to pick it up. Okay, so he's tracking along this edge line really, really nicely. The odor's hitting him full in the face. Now, one of the things you're doing is you're kind of a little bit off to the left of him on the cement, and he is a little bit over to the right. I want you to remain a little bit more lead neutral and stay directly behind him because that pressure to the left is actually causing him to come off that grass line and then over onto the cement. It's really easy to do because you're trying to take the path of least resistance. So when he's on the grass, you need to be on the grass. Don't be on the concrete. You have to understand you're guiding him back to the concrete with this positioning that you're doing right now. It doesn't take much subtle pressure on the lead to make a dog change his positioning. So as you start to get towards the top of the hill, Raz is coming out of odor. It's really, really obvious. He's looking around, heads all the way up. Of course, he doesn't have to be all the way heads down, but he is all the way up, and he's just looking right here. He's looking for something to find, and you're actually walking with him right now. This is what we call hunting behavior. He's not really an odor. He'd like to get it, but he's not. And the problem is that you keep following him and you keep moving in with him, and he's completely out of odor at this point. And if you continue to move right on top of him, you're going to get further and further away from where that track is. Now he circulates here for a long time, so this means that you've got a fair amount of blown odor that came up in this general direction, but you're way off the track and have been that way for a little while. Now I've got to really seriously give some credit where credit is due for this little bugger because you're not going to hear me say much more because he's circulating working odor really, really nicely for a long time without finding the track. But you're going to actually circle here for 4 minutes. And for a puppy that's going on 6 months old, 4 minutes staying on one odor and trying to find an exit track is a serious, serious job. So this just goes to show the quality of the dog and how focused he is on odor. It's a nice thing to see, but it's just a little bit too much for him at this age. So we want to try to scale this back. And I think if we can get into a place with a little less wind, it might be a little bit better. When you have this much wind coupled with the crown of a hill next to an intersection with hard surface, it's probably one of the reasons why we came off so hard.
shit. You better not be. Come on. Raz.
So I really feel bad for the little guy right now. He's been working this corner for so hard, and he is getting hot and tired. Most puppies would not be able to stay focused this long and still stay on the track. Um, you know, he's just missed a little bit of your turn, and he's going to eventually find it. And there's a lot of credit to him and you to getting it. But I think this area might just be a little bit too difficult, and perhaps we should have scaled it back just a little bit. Whenever you start getting into some distractions, you have to realize that the dog is starting to lose it just a little bit. And he's been at this one corner for way too long, and we're getting to the threshold of his patience level and getting him to, have a good quality trail. One of the things that happens when you're in a situation like this is that as he circles and circles and circles, you guys are just impregnating that area with both of your odors, which makes it even harder to isolate the track odor in the middle of all that, especially for a young pup. Older dogs, more mature, will be able to get it a little bit faster, but for a baby like him, it's really, really tough. And you can see right now he's about at the edge of his rope. He's not sure what to do at this point. Now, thankfully, you move him up just a little bit and he picks up the track. But realistically speaking, the whole purpose of a lot of what we're doing right now is for him to make it from beginning to end. So I think what we need to do is scale back this area just a little bit. So right about here, you get a little bit of a wind scent, a little bit of a proximity alert. I don't know how long it really lasts, but it definitely gets him going again. But as he drops down into this depression, it starts to go away again. So, as Raz finds this little water hole, he wants to take a little sip because he's starting to get thirsty. And you don't let him, of course, you can't let him have that dirty ass water. But now, right now, is probably the time to give him some fresh water from your backpack. He's good, strong, hard on track. You've got good productive source. It'll be very easy for him to pick it up again here if he has to. This is the place to water him. We want to give a dog a break when they're strong in odor, working really, really hard, not when they're having difficulty. Because if they're having difficulty, we break them to give them water, they may be more inclined to not be able to pick that track up again. Give them water now when they're hard on track and doing very, very well. Doing it again. He's to the right, you're to the left. You're putting a lot of subconscious pressure on him to come to the left if you continue to maintain that position. So what I want you to do is try to be a little bit more lead neutral. And as he's going along in a particular direction, stay right behind his back. Okay? So you're doing it a little bit again. He's to the right in the taller grass, you're to the left in the shorter grass. You're subconsciously staying in the easier place to walk. Now, that's bad because you're constantly putting pressure on him to the left, which sometimes makes the dog eventually come over to the left and off the track. And we don't want that to happen. Try to stay a little bit more lead neutral, being right over the top of his back. Now, something happens right in here. He seems to get a little bit of an air scent, really, really strong one, and he takes off hard. It's not enough to really get him into source, but you definitely got a little bit of an alert here. So even though we had all that trouble at that one corner, he's done actually remarkably well picking up the track and following it again. But now we get into a general area where almost the same thing begins to occur. He seems to be kind of at the end of the scent picture, and he really works it really, really hard. I mean, circulating and literally following every little teeny bit of odor. And for his little young pea brain, that's a hard task. I mean, it's really, really tough. So to go from that one corner now to another one here, it's a little bit difficult. And you can see his frustration level is going to pan out a little bit quicker now. His energy level is starting to drop off a little bit because he is so young. So we're starting to tucker him out. And I imagine he's probably starting to get a little bit thirsty at this point. We're going to lose him here in a little bit when he goes back to the generators, back towards the corner. So as he gets into this area, he's completely out of odor. He's hunting. He's looking for it. He'd like to find the track out, but he just can't get it. I mean, you can see him looking for it here, and he runs out of odor at the top of the hill, comes back and takes a pee. We have to be a little bit careful here. We don't want to encourage him just to keep hunting regardless of direction. If he's out of odor, he's out of odor, and he's going to stop. We need him to stop because if he just gets into hunting mode and just keeps going, and you follow, he's going to learn that as long as he's moving, you're happy, and we don't want that because that's going to create a ghost trailer, a dog that just runs to please you, and we can't have that. Right now, he's telling you, "I'm out of odor. I have absolutely nothing. I don't know what to do," and we have either got to get him back in odor or he has to find it himself. And I'm afraid he's going to start running into some trouble now trying to find it himself.
Right, come on.
So this is now your second distraction in less than a minute, and this is telling you your distraction value is higher than your trail value. Really starting to lose the dog. It's just too much at this point. I think this trail has been a little bit too difficult for him, and we have to kind of scale back the skill set and then also the distance, I think. So this is again a little bit of indication that we have zero odor, we have no track, and I think right now we're pushing him a little bit too hard trying to find this again. We've had way too many problems and too many issues, and he hasn't been consistently on track the whole time. So what we're going to teach him here, if we continue to work like this, is to push, 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 not track, track, track. Push, push, push could mean following a ghost trail with nothing on it. We don't want that to happen. So the key here is going to be scaling back your track just a little bit. I would say a little bit, maybe 20 to 30% shorter. And let's try to make the area a little bit easier. One way we can continue to use this place is if we maybe work it when it's not so windy of a day, earlier in the morning or later at night. This might work a little bit better. During the day, the earth has a tendency to breathe out. So as the earth heats up, scent begins to radiate out and move with the wind quite a bit. At nighttime, earlier in the morning, that scent's going to hold lower to the track a little bit better. And it's also going to make your surface transitions a lot easier to read and for him to pick up that odor. So you're telling him to find him, but he's not in odor, and he wasn't in odor when he got there. So right now you're kind of expecting a miracle. Unfortunately, he chose to break him right in a place where he really wasn't strong in odor and not on the track. The time we always want to break the dog in water or anything is when they're strong in odor and they're working really, really hard. That's the place to do it. Now, he seemed to pick up a little bit of odor right here. Perhaps your track line. It's kind of hard to say because he's being a little bit inconsistent in firing, and that's just because he's tired and we've lost a little bit of his intensity for the track. So the big issue here is we obviously have a road crossing. He can't connect the dots, and he's not really here. I mean, he's not following odor. This is just because it's such a windy day. You're on a crown of a hill, hard surface, no odor's really sticking there. But he does pick it up, and he's back on the track once he gets down here in the grass and you're moving in all cylinders. Now, again, he's on the right, you're on the left, and look what happens. You guide him into the middle of the walkway when you do that. You really need to start following behind him, especially when he's on productive source. I know it's easier for you to walk on the sidewalk, but if he's working on the grass, you need to work on the grass. It's really important at this stage of the game in his little young pea brain for him to understand that you're not trying to influence him with line guidance in some situations. You're not meaning to do it, but it's happening nonetheless. So this is really common, especially on windy days and hard surface transitions. You're going to have a lot of blown odor that moves off in and around your corners, like here. However, he does a really good job of connecting the dots. He picks up the turn and detects the odor on the other side super, super nicely. I think part of that might be you're starting to get a proximity alert that really starts to kick in here pretty quickly right about now. So we may have got some fresh wind right back there at the intersection that helped him out quite a bit. So the big problems on this track are it's just a little bit too hard, a little bit too complex in the conditions that we have. Super heavy windy day makes it really hard for him to work. Now let's go back to critiquing this. He's in odor real good. He's in the scent pool. He knows it. And he's just not exactly sure where it's coming from. I love this hiding space because it's making him work into some things he's never really done before. And so great job, really fantastic work. And Raz was a rock star here. He worked super hard, but I honestly believe this track was just a little bit too difficult. And on days like this, we probably need to pare it down just a little bit so the quality of the trail stays nice and healthy.
Sucht die Hund. Oh ja. Oh, you take my dog for a swim now. Fucking hell. Oh, please don't. Fuck me dead. Suck shit. Suck shit. And the GoPro's still rolling. Suck shit. Hey, you wanted to play fucking smart ass.